Hello, I am Miss Kathy and I'm the Story Lady, and I am so happy you're here today. Today we are going to read a book called The Dollhouse Fairy. The Dollhouse Fairy is written by Jane Ray. Rosie loved her dollhouse. It was her favorite thing in the whole world because her dad had built it just for her. Rosie and Dad made the furniture together and collected all sorts of things to put in the different rooms. She played for hours, making up games and stories for the dolls that lived there. The little house was perfect. On Saturday mornings, Dad and Rosie always got up early. "Just me and my Rosie Posy," Dad sang as he made hot chocolate and French toast for breakfast. Then Rosie and Dad would make special things for the dollhouse. It was Rosie's favorite time. There she is with her dad. But one windy Saturday, when Rosie woke up, everything was different. Grandma was in the kitchen. She gave Rosie a big hug and told her that Dad had been sick during the night. Mom had taken him to the hospital. Grandma told Rosie not to worry. Dad would be home as soon as he was feeling better. But Rosie did worry. The wind whistled around the house and rattled at the windows, and for the first Saturday ever, Rosie's dad wasn't there. Rosie thought it might make her feel better to play with her dollhouse. But when she opened it up, she gasped with surprise. Something was different. It looked as if a whirlwind had blown through the house. Everything was topsy-turvy. Even the dolls looked surprised. When Rosie saw some dusty footprints going up the stairs to the bedroom, and tucked into the little brass bed was, a fairy. The fairy sat up, rubbing her eyes and yawning. "Hello," she said. "I'm Thistle. I'm going to stay for a few nights because I've hurt my wing. It's much nicer in here than sleeping in a flower in the garden. You don't mind, do you?" Rosie was enchanted. She didn't mind at all. It was so exciting to have a real fairy in her dollhouse. Besides, she felt sorry for the fairy with the hurt wing. Thistle's hair stuck out all around her head like a dandelion fluff. She was dressed in leaves and petals, and she had very muddy feet. "I'm hungry," Thistle said, "but the food in this house is just pretend. What's for breakfast?" There's Thistle in the bed. Rosie ran outside and picked raspberries and rose petals and all sorts of things to make a perfect fairy breakfast. She also filled a dollhouse cup with rainwater and took everything back to Thistle. But it wasn't Thistle's idea of a perfect breakfast. "Have you got any potato chips?" Thistle said. Rosie couldn't help noticing that Thistle was very messy. She ate her chips with her mouth open and spilled her drink everywhere. But Rosie didn't mind. She just wanted to take care of the little fairy. Rosie didn't tell anyone about Thistle. She kept her bedroom door closed, and Rosie and Thistle played together in secret. The fairy had made herself quite at home in Rosie's dollhouse. At bath time, Thistle splashed around in the dollhouse bathtub like a sparrow in a puddle. Then Rosie rubbed some cream on Thistle's sore wing and put 2 tiny bandages on it to make it better. Can you see the bandages? That evening, Mom came back from the hospital hospital, she told Rosie that Dad was feeling much better and would be home soon. And when Rosie settled down to sleep, she could see a tiny light glowing in the dollhouse, and she didn't feel quite so worried about Dad anymore. There's Rosie's mom. As days passed, Thistle began to feel better too, and as the fairy's wings got stronger, Rosie helped her to practice flying again. There they are. There's Rosie and Thistle. Thistle wasn't like all the sweet little fairies in Rosie's storybooks. She was funny and noisy and full of mischief. She bounced on the bed and drew on the walls. She tried on all the dolls' clothes and moved the furniture into funny places. She spilled things and she dropped things and she scattered fairy dust everywhere. But Rosie loved her. Then at last, one sunny afternoon, the front door opened and Dad was home. Rosie flung her arms around him. She was so happy he was back. They all sat down together and ate the special cake that Rosie and Grandma had made. There's the special cake. Afterward, Rosie cuddled up to Dad. "Just me and my Rosie Posy," he said with a smile. "Have you been busy with the dollhouse while I've been away?" Rosie whispered in his ear and told him all about Thistle and how she had been helping to make her feel better. She also told him about how messy and mischievous Thistle was. Dad listened very carefully. "Do you think I could meet her too?" Dad asked. Together, they went up to Rosie's room and looked in the dollhouse. Every room was a mess, but Thistle was nowhere to be seen. "She was here, she was!" cried Rosie. Dad gave her a big hug. "I can see she was," he laughed. "You must have done such a good job looking after Thistle that now her wing is better and she has flown back home." Together, Rosie and Dad picked up all the furniture, tidied the pretend food, and carefully put the tiny cups and plates back on the table. They cleaned the scribbles off the walls and blew away the last of the fairy dust. But Dad left out a tiny piece of cake for Thistle, just in case. See the cake? Very nice. Books are the best. And always remember that you are smart, you are strong, you are brave, and you are kind. See you next time.